Hello and welcome to the Awaken Your Abundance program. Awaken Your Abundance has been created by the Early Birds Club, a nonprofit organization dedicated to creating emotionally stable, internally powerful, and self sufficient individuals by harnessing the morning hours for self work and transformation. Awaken Your Abundance is EBC's signature program that offers participants a 7-month deep dive into creating abundance in our lives through a range of tools for deep inner work. We are so excited to have Ivana Kalinić as our guest speaker for this episode. For those of us who know of her incredible work, Ivana is a great source of inspiration and an incredible resource in the field of inner work. Ivana was born in Belgrade, Serbia. She is an attorney at law by profession with her own private practice in the city of Belgrade. Ivana practices civil and employment law and has a keen understanding of the human psyche, not only thanks to her work as a lawyer, but also as a powerful practitioner of energy based work. Despite coming from a largely atheistic family, she was always very sensitive to energy and had many experiences that seemed inexplicable at the time. She began to get more involved in energy work after meeting her spiritual guide and mentor, Mohanji, who is a globally renowned humanitarian. Mohanji initiated Ivana into the techniques that she specializes in, which are MTM, the Mohanji Transformation Method, MFMP, the Mohanji Future Mapping Process, and the Journey to the Inner Garden. Through these techniques, Ivana has helped many people overcome various obstacles and hurdles in life. Some of these may seem far-reaching from the realm of possibility in the here and now, but the success stories she has encountered with these techniques tell a whole different story. This has also allowed her a very keen understanding of the nature of obstacles, patterns, blockages, and how we can navigate them to attain stability and security no matter what our circumstances may be. Thank you so much for being here, Ivana. How are you doing today?
Thank you, Himali, for this very warm welcome and kind words. I really feel honored and blessed to be here with you and all the participants today, and to be part of this very powerful and deeply transformative program. I'm so happy. Thank you.
Thank you. Um, Ivana, before we go into the details of the work you do and how it's relevant to our participants, could you share a bit with us about how you came to this deep space of helping people heal through grace?
Okay. Well, it all started with meeting Mohanji. I met Mohanji in 2014, and somewhere around 2016, I remember it was during one of the retreats that we had. He told me that I should start doing sessions, and at that time I had no clarity what kind of sessions I supposed to conduct, but I said okay, like I understood everything. And later on in my meditations, because I was already deeply connected with him, and I could hear his voice loud and clear when my mind is silent. So I began to listen more, and slowly very gentle guidance started to emerge. And this is how, with time, MTM, the first technique that was given to me, took its current form and shape. So it was really a blessing to be a channel for this kind of work, because I never planned anything like this in my life prior to that. And this is briefly how it all started with NTM, and then other techniques followed in a way.
Wow. Can you tell us a little bit about these techniques and all three of them, all of the techniques that you practice? Because I think all of them have come to you through Mohanji.
Yes, yes. So the first technique that came was MTM, and MTM is basically a technique where Mohanji works through me on a very deep cleansing. So we address the impressions from the past that can be past lives or past from this life, like some childhood traumas or some like fragments which are not healed or integrated properly, or anything else that a client have gone through during the course of this life. We also address the lineage karma. So this is something which is not very common for practices to involve. And finally, the external influences. Those are the energies that we collect from our surroundings. So during MTM, Mohanji performs this deep cleansing, and then I also channel the messages for the client and the techniques for them to work on themselves further. So the goal of this session is not that someone keeps coming to me till the rest of their life or to become dependent on the sessions, but rather to do one deep cleansing and get guidance how to work on themselves further. So that's for the MTM. Later, I think only a few years back, Mohanji introduced a future mapping process, which is a guided process. It can be done as a group or individual session. And basically, the aim of this process is to address the patterns and dissolve the patterns that we keep repeating. So it takes a client through the journey of various stages of their existence, past, present, and future as well, including encountering the death scene in this life, which can be very shocking and transformative. But the aim is not to resolve a specific trauma from the past or to address one particular situation. The aim is to address the entire pattern that keeps repeating throughout the lifetimes, and to help a person to align with their higher purpose, to basically live more happier and fulfilled life. And finally, the last technique is not very well known. Not many people know that I do it. Actually, it is guided process called Journey to the Inner Garden, and it's for women only. For those women who are really ready to go deep and to understand what is affecting them on a very deep level. So those can be very deep traumas, such as boundaries being crossed sometimes in the past, in childhood or later on in life. And basically, during the process, women are guided to go through all the areas where they experience blockages. We also address abortions, miscarriages, and intimate health. That means also the energy exchange that is happening during the intercourse, sexual intercourse, and other aspects as well. I will not go to too much of details, but basically this process helps women also to reconnect to that feminine aspect within. And it involves a technique, like a follow-up technique, which is practiced after the session is done. So this is these are the old techniques that I do, actually, that Mohanji does through me, I would say.
Wow. Thank you. So, Ivana, you mentioned two things here, which I'm going to ask you to explain a little more in detail. You talked about lineage and you talked about karma. We'll get into each of these separately. Would you share with us what karma is, and especially from the perspective of someone who offers these techniques?
Well, I think even profound saints were not able to explain karma to humanity. But if I have to put it briefly, I would say that desires create karma, unfulfilled desires. So if we imagine, for example, I was born in Belgrade, and that's part of my agenda for this life. Being born and living in Belgrade, maybe I change locations later on, but imagine also that I constantly complain about it. So I'm not happy about being in Belgrade and, for example, think about living in Paris and invest so much time and energy thinking, oh, everything would be better if I only lived in Paris, or things would not be the same. I would have better opportunities, things like that. So I basically express resistance in this situation. I am not aligned with my agenda, karmic agenda. I am not accepting it. So I create all these desires to be in Paris. And considering that it's just not part of my agenda in this life, that means it gets postponed. It's like making sure that I will reincarnate and probably be born in Paris or move to Paris, live there for some time. So that goes with all the desires that we have, even for food, even all the cravings. We invest so much of energy thinking and wanting something which is not given to us in these lives, and that is how we create karma for the next life. I mean, that's the briefest I can put it. Yeah, I hope it's understandable. But this is how we keep incarnating again and again, always wanting something else, something more, something less, never satisfied with what we have, actually. And that is how we create karma.
I think that really explains it quite succinctly for someone who probably doesn't have even, who doesn't have an understanding of how karma works. It's a very clear example. Thank you. Could you also share about lineage, and what role does it play in our life? And could you talk about this from the point of view of stability?
Okay, so when it comes to lineage, we say that 1/3 of our karma belongs to our ancestors. So that means that our ancestors are affecting us whether we like it or not. So, and if we accept that fact, we can use it as our strength. We can we can acknowledge our lineage and use it as our strength, as stability, as you mentioned. Or if we are just in a resistance, so I don't feel like I belong to this family, and I'm not like the other members of my family, that shows that some kind of resistance is there that we need to work on, because we need to accept the fact that we are not born in particular family by a chance. We are born that for a specific karmic reason. So that means that all the dynamics and behaviors that are present in the family, at least somewhere, sometime we did resonate to it. And that is how we attracted it. And we choose the family, which is the platform for ourselves and our experiences to be completed. And in some cultures, respecting the lineage is a very important part of tradition. And this is, I think, very good, because when we honor our ancestors, then we feel this strength and power that we can also source from it. And I really would say that in some traditions, like in my tradition, for example, in earlier days, there used to be a ways to respect your ancestors, but nowadays people don't even know more than, for example, grandmother, grandfather. They don't know who their ancestors were, what were they dealing with, what kind of challenges they had. So I think that knowing your lineage and dealing with all the dynamics from the family is very important on our healing journey, especially considering what I said, that 1/3 of our karma is affected by our lineage. That means 1/3 of our life force directly is affected by the lineage. So if we deny our ancestors, that means that we are denying 1/3 of our life force, life energy. But if we accept it and honor it and respect it, we do get stability from there.
You know, what's interesting is both when you spoke about karma and now that you've spoken about lineage, both times you very strongly spoke about acceptance. And you know, we're all aware that just to live a more joyful life, acceptance is very important in every moment, but it runs a lot deeper than that from what you're saying.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in order to resolve something or to change something in life, we first need to accept the situation. If we are denying our reality or blaming someone else or trying to find a solution outside without accepting first what is, just what is the reality, then we cannot really change it. So I think acceptance is important, and it should start from self-acceptance, actually. Self-acceptance is very important because we can only live our full potential and be authentic if we accept and love ourselves. And that is the hard part sometimes.
So true, so true. Could you explain to us, Ivana, in the most basic way to an audience that may be hearing this for the first time, what a pattern is and what a blockage is?
Well, if we try to define it, I would say that blockage is like a hindrance on our way that we may encounter on our path. It can be some problem, situation, emotion, anything that is blocking us at the moment, and we are trying to find a way to resolve it. On the other hand, pattern is something which reoccurs. It has a long-lasting effect, I would say, and the patterns are usually related to our attachment to positions, possessions, relations, and guilt and regret, which are connected to the past. So we see that in our daily life, situations repeating. And even if we don't take the concept of reincarnation, we don't believe in reincarnation, even though we know that in many lifetimes we repeat the same patterns. But even if we discard this concept for a second, in everyday life, we all experience the repetitive emotions, behaviors, dynamics. For example, in certain relationship, we have a habit of reacting in a same or similar way. So we would say that patterns are, in a way, are bad habits. So that's why it's hard to break it. But there are definitely ways we can do that.
So, from what I'm hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, a blockage is a lot easier to deal with, and a pattern takes a lot more conscious effort. Am I
Well,
correct?
I would not say, I mean, I cannot vouch for that because it depends on capacity of a person as well. For someone, it will be very hard to overcome a blockage as well. And for someone, it might be easier to become pattern, to dissolve pattern because they're maybe purpose-oriented, driven, motivated, they work hard. So it's not like a rule, but if I have to differentiate, blockage would be something which is maybe like a very specific in a time frame, while pattern keeps repeating. It's something that keeps coming. It did come in the past, it's coming in the present, and if we don't address it, it will come in future as well.
Okay. So, what is the line between being unable to break out of a pattern or a blockage that causes stagnation versus those obstacles or patterns or things that come up in our life that are meant to help us grow, what we must go through? You know, when should we seek help either through our own conscious effort or through a practice like MTM or MFMP?
Well, I like to believe that every challenge that we have is an opportunity for us to learn and grow from the situation. And there are situations that are given to us as part of our fixed karma, we would say, like something that we need to go through in order to learn something. So the problem occurs when we actually develop these attachments or we become too emotional, and emotions are like a glue. It binds us to a situation, and then we keep repeating it. We create a pattern. For example, if someone supposed to experience getting divorced in this life, but they have so much of attachment, they don't want to let go, they enter into state of victim, or they think, I own this person, this cannot happen, that we are not together any longer. So these are all the ways to how to make sure that this experience will happen again until we understand. And there are certain aspects, karmic aspects, which are not as fixed. So we don't need to maybe go through that. Those are just possibilities for us. Like turn on our way. We might take this turn or not. We can choose. It's not mandatory, I would say, for us. So those are these two karmic aspects that exist, but we should not bother too much with that, because anyway we will not know the difference. It's not that we come with full awareness and then know now this is part of karma that I must go through, and this is what I don't have to go through. So those are also the choices that we make daily. But I think it's good to be present and be to do go with the flow. I would say not to think too much about now is it given to me. I mean, it's given, so deal with it. It doesn't matter is it given as a must or not must. I mean, if it's there, we need to handle the situation.
That explains some of it. I mean, there are some times that you really, really, um, you do everything you can, and then something just doesn't budge or move, and you feel very stagnated in life. Would you say that those are situations then that you should ask for help? How does that work?
I would say that whenever we feel that we cannot do something alone, we should ask for help, definitely. If we don't see the results, we should keep asking for help, and eventually help is definitely provided. And we should also not give up. Maybe in that situation, our lesson is not to give up. Maybe we had pattern in the past where we used to give up whenever we didn't have miraculous and instant results. So, I mean, it's hard to say. Everything is very individualistic, but I would say that we should keep trying and keep working on ourselves, and results will definitely be there. And if we need some assistance on our way, we should definitely seek out for help.
What, in your experience of working with many, many people, is the root cause of instability and insecurity? And how can one address that? Is there a common theme across the cases? Is it highly individualistic? And we would love to hear some of these cases that you've, um, helped people with.
Well, to be honest, nothing is generic. I would say that every situation is different and unique and has different root causes. So we cannot say in general that instability or insecurity is caused by this and that. But what I have encountered, for example, that you must have seen it in around you as well. So, for example, if a child is criticized a lot in during upbringing, and they were told they cannot do something, they are not talented, they are not good enough, that child will definitely be insecure and not very self-confident. So this is something that can be that can have a root cause in early childhood. Or for example, the child who was always told not to do something, not to go somewhere, it's not safe, it's not good, that there are various dangers around, that child will also develop fears and be stuck and insecure and cannot move forward in life. So it can be again from childhood. It can also be from past lives. Imagine that someone was went through a very traumatic situation that wasn't healed properly in the past. So they were very emotional and unstable. And when they left the body, entire constitution followed. So unavoidably in this life, that person will express instability at some point. Some trigger will come, some situation will come which will remind them of their past, and then they will start expressing instability, for example. So there are lots of reasons. So we cannot specify one root cause for instability and insecurity. But I would say that for people, it's good to contemplate, to see, to understand where do they stand, in which situation they express insecurities, and then dig deeper and work on the subject.
So Ivana, if one were to not believe in karma or lifetimes or patterns accumulated over these lifetimes or through our lineages, what are the things that we can do consciously in our daily lives to avoid accumulating more impressions, more patterns and blockages?
Well, as I mentioned just before, we don't need to accept the concept of reincarnation in order to understand that we are repeating certain behaviors. So even in this lifetime, we have so many examples when we express same emotions, same behaviors, same dynamics. So for example, you must have seen people who constantly choose same partners. So they think if they break the relationship, things will change. But then they find a new partner who is exactly the same dynamic of behavior. So this is how we first need to understand, okay, that there is something is wrong here. I'm repeating this. So contemplation helps a lot. Contemplating on the on yourself constantly to see where you stand, what is affecting you, what kind of emotions you express. And then when you notice that something is repetitive there, awareness is the key. So now we are aware. We have this situation, for example, when I talk to my mother, I express anger when she says this and that. So I'm aware of that. What can I do? I cannot change my mother. Fighting is also not a good approach or solution. So we can only work on ourselves. We cannot change others, but I can choose to change my behavior, to change my response to her behavior or whatever is annoying me or affecting me, making me disturbed. So once we have that awareness and we find ourselves in that situation in everyday life, we should just try to become witnesses, so just to like a step back in a way, to try to understand, okay, so this is the situation when I burst in anger. Let me try waiting for a few seconds. The anger will pass, because any emotion comes and goes, so it won't be there forever. So if we try giving it a bit time, maybe breathing few times or pause for a second and then approach the situation, that is how we can consciously affect the patterns. And with time, that pattern will lose its strength, because we are changing the way that we respond. So no new behavior is being created in that situation. So we consciously did that. So I think that awareness is the key here. This is something that we definitely can do. I'm not saying it's easy, because to be constantly aware of yourself and your behavior, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, if we become aware of, like in a day, we had 10 such situations. If we become aware of 2 and respond differently in 2, and then tomorrow in 5 days we respond differently in 3 situations, it's progress still. So we should not expect too much overnight, because being aware constantly, it's not easy task. Yeah.
For
But
sure.
it's possible. It's definitely possible.
How can we view our suffering through the lens of gratitude and abundance?
Well, the gratitude, I think it's crucial, like in our lives, in order to have more grace and more abundance. See, we don't know our karmic background, so that means that we don't know why certain things are happening to us. For example, we have a difficult relationship with someone, but we don't know the reason for that. Maybe we express the same behavior in the past, so that's why we are experiencing that. So we choose to suffer in that situation. But on the other hand, if we try to look at it from a different perspective, from the perspective of gratitude, okay, I have this opportunity to grow from this situation, or even just gratitude for everyday life, for being alive, for having food on our table, for having good relationships, for having a job, or loved ones, or someone to take care of. This is how we increase our abundance. And of course, gratitude is crucial. And again, I'll talk about acceptance. So acceptance plus gratitude, I think it's a very good recipe to handle life more easily, and all the life challenges.
So true, very true. Um, Please, Ivana, explain the difference between surrendering our problems versus absolving ourselves of the responsibility for our problems. It's like saying, oh, I've asked for help now I'm just going to sort of, let it go. Is that let it go is a very tricky, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just mentioned, I think that it's very important to take responsibility for our situation. So we don't know our karmic background, but we need to accept that we have created our karma and our lives. So that means that we are the responsible one for good things and bad things, for misery and for all the blessings. So once we accept that fact, then it's easier to navigate through problems. And we can only make this milestone and progress if we accept the responsibility part. But then, yet, all the help is available. So we are not alone on this journey. So many techniques are available, so many divine beings are available nowadays in physical reality and astrally as well. So if a person follows a guru or a religion or a specific path, they can choose to surrender their problems. But the problem is that we don't actually really surrender. We surrender and then we develop expectations when it will be done, how it will be done, and then we again block it. So that is the letting go part that you mentioned, and that is the tricky part. But we must have faith that things that the resolution will come. But we must also not mix the surrendering with the passivity. Sometimes I've seen people, oh, I have surrendered this, I have faith, and I'm just lying in the bed and waiting for the miracle. So that also is not a solution. So we have one very beautiful saying in Serbia. It's maybe a bit awkward when it is translated, but still I'll translate it. It goes something like, you need to take action, you need to move in order for God to move alongside with you, to move with you. So I think it beautifully explains how action is required from our side in order to get this grace going. So even on the spiritual path with the guru, guru can hold your hand or help you in a way, but you still have to walk alone. So that means you are responsible for your journey, and all the available help is there, but still you are the one who need to walk and face all the life challenges and situations.
So basically, you have to put in your intention, you have to put in the hard work, but you don't have expectation.
Definitely. I had encountered sometimes people who come for MTM or any other technique, and they develop so much of expectations that all their problems will be miraculously solved after one session without any effort from their side. And that is not the right approach, because we also need to change something. I mean, we can only be helped this much, and then rest of the work we also need to do personally, and follow up techniques that they give, and people don't do it, then of course result will not be the same. We cannot just lie down and expect someone to cleanse us and do all the work for us, because we created and we need to put effort to uncreate it if we don't like it.
Yeah, so true. Ivana, in your practice, what kind of patterns do you most, often come across? How do they manifest? What impact do they have? Can you give us a few examples, like, maybe some clients, without, of course, going into too many details, but if you can share some of these experiences you may have had.
Well, as I mentioned, those are usually emotions like hatred, jealousy, anger, envy, some negative emotions that people keep repeating and thus bind themselves for the situation, or the attachments to positions, possessions, relations. When we include that me and mine in the story, you have seen people who develop so much of attachment to property, my house, my car, and they don't want to leave the body. They think they will carry it in the next life as well. But I would like to give example. Maybe I've seen a lot people who, for example, in this life they cannot have a child, and their only prayer is to have a child. And then when you look back, there was a life where they had 10 children, and after fourth child, the only prayer was not to ever have children anymore. And we already spoke about the karmic agenda, so everything is in a way written, and we just go through the experiences. So in that life, having 10 children was also the wish and the desire from the past, which now gets fulfilled. But now we don't like it. Now we don't want any more children, and we invest so much of energy to wanting that, So that is where our energy and focus goes. And then in this life, there is no child. Then we again want children. So those are the cycles that keep going on and on. The same goes with marriages, married, not married, kids, no kids, or all kinds of positions. So I want to be famous and recognized, and then the attachment develops. I don't want to let it go when it is over. You can see it even in the daily life with people just from one life. They held position of a politician or a doctor or attorney, and then they get retired, and they cannot accept that position is no longer there, title is no longer there, recognitions are no longer there. So that is how people really bind themselves and come into the repetitive situations over and over again. But regarding guilt and regret, they are connected naturally to the past. So we say that, for example, I've seen that a lot with people. For example, they don't treat their parents very well, and then they regret it when their parents die. So what can we do about it? So there is no way that we can get back to the past and resolve something. It's gone. So what's done, it's done. But what we can do, we can do selfless service, for example, for elderly people, go to the nursery home, spend time with elderly people, take care of them. That is how we reduce our own karma and guilt, for example, in that situation. So those are most common cases. I mean, I would not say that some case is very specific or unique, because this is the human behavior. Everything is eventually the same. We all express same behaviors, same patterns, same emotions, and we do it all over again.
Yeah, I think in all of our lives also we experience these repetitive cycles. Yeah, it's not necessary. You don't have to go
Definitely.
through lifetimes. I think just even, going through life.
Yes,
That.
it happens. Yeah, it happens.
So how do you consciously overcome a fear or a phobia? Can you share a specific experience where you successfully helped a client with one?
Mm. Yeah, so I think that the good example would be the Mohanji future mapping process, because it involves dealing with the death in this life as well. So at one point with the client, we go through their own death in this life, and this experience, even though it may be shocking and shaking, it's very transformative, because most common fear for many people is a fear of death. And once they go through the death itself, and they understand that it's not final, it's just transition, it's just change of form in that sense. So that is how most of them overcome this fear. And Mohanji often says that facing fear is something that helps a lot in overcoming fear. And I remember even my personal example when we were in a Kailash retreat, and at that time used to I mean, still I am very introverted, and I didn't like speaking publicly, and I had such a tremendous fear of public speaking. And suddenly, in the middle of one of the satsangs in front of 86 people, I remember to the day, he invited me to come to the stage and to share my experiences. And I felt so scared at that moment. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't talk. I thought I will just go there and lie down and die at the stage. But then I said, okay, he did it for a purpose. He wants me to overcome that. And I have this opportunity now. Why not to use it, you know? So I took the mic, and first I felt such a like someone is choking me, such a pressure in my throat. But then I looked at him, and I kind of gained more confidence and became more stable, and just experienced it started to flow from me literally. And since then I never encountered the fear of public speaking again. So this is how, of course, that's related to his presence and his power. But anyway, if we try facing our fears, I think it's the best way to overcome it. But also for people who are not ready to face the fears directly, there are techniques that can be done. I mean, I'm sure that many people practice various techniques that can help us overcome fears. And I remember a case where a girl was very terrified of getting married, you know, and I did one MTM session for her, and the root cause was lying in the past, where she had a very traumatic experience in the past life related to marriage. And in her mind, there was this connection between getting married and suffering a lot, even dying. So, of course, when she got in serious relationship, this fear got triggered. And after this session, within a week, she got married, and didn't have any problems with that. So that is how something from the past can block us really on our journey. We are not aware of from where or how, but we feel it. So those are the situations where we should seek for help from the practitioners of not just MTM, future mapping, but other techniques as well are there. I mean, so much help is available now. We just need to start walking and work on ourselves.
Yeah, from what you say, I think the one thing that really strongly is coming up is that the freedom on the other side of having sought help. You know, that fear may
Yeah,
be
relief.
huge, you know, that like you spoke about feeling like you were choking, or that young woman who was feeling like, you know,
Terrified, completely
she was terrified, but having released it, the
yeah.
sense of freedom is, I think, worth seeking
It's
any kind.
priceless.
Yes. Yes.
Definitely priceless. The stability, the freedom that you feel when you overcome fear. And in a way, you feel like a winner. You know, I did this, you know, it's such a huge success, actually, because who knows how many lifetimes we do carry it. So it is success. We should be happy uh, and appreciate ourselves for that.
Yeah, because I think even knowing or accepting that you need help is such a big part of acceptance, right?
Definitely,
To
definitely.
acknowledge.
For some people, it's very hard to ask for help. They are used to on doing everything alone, and they think they have to do everything alone. And then we don't know, maybe some stranger on the street might help us. Sometimes, you know, even a powerful word or a sentence can be thought-provoking or epiphany for us. We never know. It's not always sitting in the long sessions and like elaborating about the past, etc. Sometimes it's enough just one spark which hits us and okay, oh, it's there. Like solution is possible.
For sure. Now, Ivana, you had talked about this a little bit earlier. We wanted to come back to this. If someone has experienced trauma, such as childhood trauma, and that unknowingly persists into adulthood, how can they begin to recognize its influence on their present? And what strategies or practices have you found effective for processing and overcoming unresolved trauma?
Okay.
First of all, how does it even express itself in our being?
Well, from my point of view, like how I see it in energy work, I don't know about other approaches, but energetically to me, it was always shown like a dissociated fragment, childhood fragment, which is not healed and integrated properly. So let's say that someone experienced trauma at the age of 7. So their aura cracks at that moment, and this fragment dissociates, and it depends. It exists independently. So whenever a similar situation happens, or some trigger, or some person is there who reminded this now maybe adult to that situation which caused the trauma, this fragment returns to the body and reacts, and it behaves like a defense mechanism. And defense mechanism can be different for different people. For someone that means withdrawing to themselves. For someone it may be running away from the situation. For someone it can be striking back, like expressing bursting anger, etc. So you've probably seen people who in a situation behave like a children, like a child in a tantrum, and they want something which was not given, and then similar reaction in an adult person. That is usually the sign some childhood integration is required, healing and integration is required. So that is when we actually do the healing and integration of these scattered fragments, and also guide person how to approach such situations in future. So that is how it looks like energetically from my point of view.
Wow, that's
I'm
fascinating. That's fascinating because it puts so many things in perspective.
Definitely it is fascinating how much we can be affected by things from the childhood, and a child is fragile in that sense. Even if someone is yelling or someone tells them something, it really sticks somewhere. So many people, I mean, most people have some unresolved issues from childhood. That's like normal. You cannot grow up without any, let's say, trauma. Of course, some traumas are very deep and dramatic, while others are less intense. But pretty much the system is the same.
That's interesting. When we do inner work, we're trying to change patterns that are comfort zones for our mind very often. Now, resistance is a very natural response from the mind when we try to shake ourselves out of a comfort zone. So, how do we navigate these setbacks or resistance from the mind when we try to change a deeply ingrained habit or belief?
Well, habits are honestly not easy to break. Why? Because mind loves habits. It loves comfort zones as well, and this is something which is not unknown. Definitely, it's not easy to go out from the comfort zone, but we can use our mind in our favor, like establishing healthy habits, for example, like you're having this, I understood in the program, like waking up early and other good habits, as we say. I mean, nothing is good or bad. We cannot define it like that. But if we establish like waking up early in the morning, meditating, eating healthy, this is how we, with time, we establish a new habit, which is not destructive or which is actually in our favor. But I would say that people should start with baby steps. You know, sometimes people get stuck because they set too high expectations from themselves. So they say, "Oh, from Monday I'm starting to training, going to the gym 5 times a week, or I will meditate for 1 hour daily," and things like that. And because we don't have a habit of doing it, it will be very hard in the beginning. So start with small baby steps. Meditate 5 minutes. 5 minutes is enough for the beginning. We don't need, spending time with ourselves is so valuable and so crucial for our well-being and for our healing. So even if it's 3 minutes, 5 minutes, then tomorrow 10 minutes a day, it's good enough. So we should not try to break all the comfort zones at once. And also, there is one comfort zone that Mohanji always says it's good, and that's a stable practice and stable place. So it's recommended that if we do our practice, like a daily sadhana or any routine that we do for our well-being, it's recommended that we do it in the same place, preferably same time, same setup, you know, so that we invest more and more energy in that space, and it's easier for us to slip into meditation if we already meditated there over and over again. So that's one comfort zone which is actually good for us, having a stable practice. But I know that for people, some people, it's very hard to begin even. So that's why I always recommend taking small steps and going each day by day, and also not punishing themselves if they skipped the practice or they didn't do something as planned. That's okay. You just pick yourself up and tomorrow you'll do better. So we should always try to do the best as per our level of capacity at that moment, and with time our capacity will also increase. So that is, I think, how we can approach these breaking habits. And like anything in life, it doesn't come overnight, you know, but we should not give up.
Yeah, no, that's amazing that you said that also, because part of our program is also helping participants create that space within their minds to create new neural pathways,
Yeah.
to plant intentions and affirmations very deeply so that they can begin to realize those things in their lives.
Yeah.
Uh, so this is very meaningful what you said.
And that's actually like a creating a good spiritual bank balance. It's we invest it for the future. So we are now stable, like reasonably stable, and we use our time to invest the energy in working on ourselves and making ourselves even more stable. So when the time of crisis comes, all that effort will be paid off. So that's, I think, also important to remind people of, because we think, oh no, what am I doing? I should be sitting in the cafe, or why am I even doing this? So everything gets counted in that sense. So all the tiniest effort gets counted. So when the time of crisis happens, it does help us.
Yeah, it's like building a muscle, right? That little,
Yes,
little, little
like in the
builds up.
gym.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about contemplation, the role of contemplation in all of this? I know you spoke about it a little bit earlier, but a little more deeply in relation to this.
So regarding contemplation, I already mentioned it briefly, but it did help me a lot. And I remember the time when I was in the beginning of my spiritual journey, and I was totally clueless. I knew nothing. I didn't have any guide or anyone in my surrounding who would be able to give advice or help me. But I did have this inner calling to keep searching and keep looking inside. And in those times, I didn't also have any spiritual book or anything. I just had a tiny book. It maybe had 20 pages. It was very tiny, and it was called Chan and Zen stories. Those were just like educational stories about spirituality and self-realization. And those were the stories mostly like student, disciple, and the masters would find themselves in the situation, and their conversations, things like that. And I remember that this is how I spontaneously developed contemplation. I would read one short story, and then suddenly I had a thought, and then I would think in terms of myself, how can I apply this realization now? And interestingly, every time when I would read a story, because it was only 20 pages, I must have read all the stories like 1,000 times, but every time different realization would happen. So I think that contemplation can help us a lot to understand ourselves better. And once we understand ourselves better, as I mentioned before, where we stand, then we can apply all the other tools like awareness and everything else that I explained in more details. But I think that contemplation is very, very important.
Thank you for sharing that. Ivana, how have your years of practice made you more aware of yourself? And what does that self-awareness look like?
I would say that each case and each client really brought a huge transformation for myself as well. Because, as I mentioned in the beginning, when I started doing MTM, I had no clue about what was I supposed to do, and definitely it was a journey for me as well, because clients would sometimes reflect back my own state or my behavior, and I would realize and then contemplate and then work on myself. So it's been a journey definitely for me as well. I must say I did have to come to some level of stability in order to start practicing, and it took me lots of years to work on myself before I even started working with clients, because I felt that now I first need to be stable in order to be able to help someone else. So, but when the journey with clients started, then it was even more transformative, and it brought me even more deeper connection to Mohanji, and I really feel blessed that I can be instrument for these techniques, because I don't think that I do actually anything. I believe that my role is just to make myself available and to maintain my channel pure through my thoughts, words, actions, things that I consume, like food, cosmetics, everything. Because I really strive to be as pure as possible so that Mohanji can work through me. I don't think I get any credit for that, but the journey was definitely transformative for me as well.
We all know about your wonderful work, so and how you channel Mohanji's grace for all of us. So we're very grateful for that also. Um, we came across this lovely quote by Mohanji: feeling alive, feeling dead, feeling enthusiastic, or being stressed. That exactly is the depth of the abundance quotient in your constitution. Now, what does abundance mean to you, and what is your abundance quotient?
Well, when you read it, it's just so beautiful. Mohanji said it so beautifully and poetically. But I believe that the bottom line is actually our perspective in life. We can say that every day we have a choice. If we encounter a challenge or a problem, we can stress about it, or we can say, okay, bring it on. Let me be enthusiastic about all the solutions that I may apply and overcome this situation. And that goes for any situation in life. We can perceive it as a suffering or as a blessing, as opportunity to learn and grow, what we talked about. And definitely being positive and choosing that attitude, affirmative attitude, brings abundance, while being constantly negative and complaining and not accepting brings poverty consciousness. And that, when I say, I mean, as a state, not financially like abundance and poverty, but more of like a state that reflects upon all areas of our lives. We have all seen people who are very, very rich. They have lots of money, but they express poverty consciousness in their relationships or some other aspects of their lives. And I think that gratitude is again crucial. I cannot stress enough how gratitude is important, because gratitude eventually brings grace. When we are grateful for what we have, we will have more. When we constantly complain about what we don't have, we will uh, get more of not having, so that is how it basically goes. Where our attention and energy goes, we it gets multiplied. So I think that in order to attract abundance, we must have that in mind, and also keep giving. When we share what we have in abundance with everyone, and also what we don't have, when we share everything, I think it brings lots of grace, and then we are blessed with even more. And we are stingy, and we stick to our own mind, and we don't want to share. That's how we bring poverty consciousness again.
Beautiful, because that also says then that that speaks to the fact that when you are insecure, no matter how much you actually have, that insecurity creates instability.
Mhm.
Whereas if you, in your heart and in your mind, feel like this is enough,
Yes,
I am contented, you are stable.
yes, definitely, definitely. You're right, because you've seen, I mean, people who are constantly focused on what they don't have, and how will I pay my bills, and or constantly the minuses in the head on the account, and what is lacking. Entire focus goes to the lack, and of course they attract more and more lack. And people who are grateful, and they said, okay, I have this much today, but this is enough. I have food, I have for this, for that, and that's okay. And then they are blessed with more abundance. Then if we speak of finances, but goes for every aspect as well.
Ivana, can you share how you reached a space of abundance in your life, whether financially, emotionally, or spiritually?
Yeah. Well, I remember the situation. I mean, I used to be very full of all kinds of insecurities and fears, and for some of them, especially related to finances, I've understood with time that it is in a way inherited. That my mother used to think like that, and then the same belief was transferred, like transgenerational to me. And I remember when there was a strike of attorneys in Belgrade. There was some new law that they wanted to introduce, and that meant that we need to pay some big amount for tax retroactively. And all the attorneys were very angry, and there were strikes in the streets, and we didn't work basically for 3 months. And I remember that at that time, I mean, me and my mother, we both worked as attorneys. So that meant that we didn't have income from both sides. We didn't have income for 3 months, and then there is this threat that we will have to pay a huge amount of money. And my mother was constantly negative about it. She would complain all the time, how we will live, we will not have what to eat. And in the beginning, it created frustration with me, and I would get angry with her and things like that. And then I realized, okay, let me use this opportunity to actually overcome this transgenerational inherited limiting belief. I realized, okay, I cannot change her. It's probably the way she was also taught to think, and who knows what kind of experiences from past lives, etc. So I said, okay, it's this being frustrated is not working, so let me try a different approach. And then I consciously changed my attitude each time when she would talk like that. I would just say to myself, like, cancel, clear, delete, like I'm not affected by that at all. And I would try to shield myself in that sense, that okay, I know deeply within that everything will be fine. And I really knew that everything will be fine. And I mean, what is the worst thing that can happen? I mean, we will survive. People are very flexible, even in the war situations, in all kinds of hurdles. Life goes on, and this was one such situation. I mean, what can happen? I am alive. I am healthy. If I cannot do this job, I will find something else. It's okay. It will be fine. And eventually, everything did turn out fine. But it would, for example, when we talk about abundance in terms of finances, I think for me that was the breaking point when I realized, okay, I'm not going to follow this family pattern. I'm just going to break it now. I will use this opportunity to break it and to create something better for myself. And it did happen, but I mean, it was not overnight. It was a journey. And I remember the time when I had fears about finances. I didn't want to take my own apartment, thinking I will not be able to sustain for myself. And then I said, okay, but I have support. I do work, and I have support from the tradition, and I have the guidance. Everything will turn out just fine. And there are times when we just need to take that leap of faith. And that is also how we can overcome challenging situations. But regarding abundance, that's the example that just came across my mind.
No, that's very powerful because, and clearly you have put in a lot of inner work to even get to the point of recognizing this as a generational cycle, because that's something that a lot of us don't even come to.
Yeah, that's
We just
again
fall in line with.
contemplation that helped, because I realized, okay, I feel within that everything is going to be fine. But then when I encounter her and she starts speaking, I get frustrated. So that means I felt like this is being imposed on me as a belief. And I said, okay, I don't want to take it, you know. First, I tried the wrong approach, like I wanted to change her, and I even fighting, and but it didn't help, you know. We cannot change others, we can only change ourselves. We can choose. Those are the choices that I mentioned from the quotation that Mohanji mentioned. It's actually that, you know, we choose to how we will respond in that situation. For me, I don't want to stress about it. And then she would say, how is it possible that you don't stress about it? It's your future. It's your. So I don't stress. I choose not to stress, because what is there I can do? I can't do much about to change the laws in the country or things like that. I can accept it, and I can choose to be optimistic about it. I can choose to see good in that. Even if this door closes for me, that means it's good like that. Something else will open up, you know. And it's always like that in life. Sometimes we try to force some things to happen, but maybe we are just being redirected where we have to be. So again, acceptance.
No, you brought up a very valuable point here, Ivana, about, recognizing when there are things that you can change and working towards that consciously, and accepting things because, like the laws of the country,
We
you're not
can.
going to impact it as one lawyer sitting there. So just the wisdom in that, and how that can guide your acceptance.
Yeah, definitely.
Ivana, we've been talking about the fact that abundance is a state of mind, but how can someone who's in the middle of a very either a traumatic experience or a storm, some kind of storm, find the strength to come out of it, witness it, understand that it's part of life? How can that mindset shift happen? Could you just explain this? If you have an example, that would be lovely.
It depends on the traumatic situation. I mean, some situations allow you to commit some time to contemplate, like the example I just used with the situation I encountered. So it was not that much of disturbing situation that I couldn't find my time to sit and contemplate and face it. But there are times in life where we are I mean, there are situations for people where they don't have food to eat, and when they are in the middle of huge traumas and crises. So those are usually not the times when you will sit and contemplate and meditate, you know. Mohanji always says, you know, when someone is hungry, give them food. You will not give them a mantra to chant. So that is how we come back to the spiritual bank balance that I mentioned. So when we work continuously on ourselves, so we increase this stability, and then in the times of crisis, we are able to handle the situation with stability and overcome it. But of course, some situations call for our attention and action on a daily basis. So we cannot say, now I will go to Himalayas to meditate, or I will, that can also be escapism. So I think it depends on the situation, but I think you understood the point of what I wanted to say. Basically, I think that being aware is possible in some situations. In some situations, we will first stabilize ourselves and then sit and contemplate and do better next time.
How do you stay motivated to continue your own journey of self-awareness and growth?
I can say that motivation is something I believe that comes from within, because because others around us can only inspire us. They can lead by example, but after all, we need to find that motivation within. And for me, for example, a clear purpose is something that gives motivation. Of course, for me, constant inspiration is Mohanji and his life and work and all the good things that he does for so many people around the world. But even if we forget about spiritual concepts here and gurus, motivation is still something we need to find from within. And not to expect that someone will motivate us on a daily basis. I mean, there are life coaches and things that we can get help from, but still motivation is very personal, individualistic. But I believe when we shift our focus to higher purpose, that itself gives us a fuel, a drive to move forward. If our goals are self-oriented and self-centered, then there are limitations to what we can do. But if we put our goals higher in terms of higher purpose, then we definitely will find a source of motivation within.
Thank you, Ivana. If someone feels they need your assistance, what would be the best way to reach you?
On mohanji.org website, where there is a caption about the techniques, there is also email address where people can send an email, an inquiry about the session, and the practitioner will be allocated to them. Currently, there are a few practitioners that do MTM technique and future mapping process as well, while Journey to the Inner Garden is more like a recommendation based, so it's not publicly announced in that sense.
Thank you so much, Ivana. Thank you for bringing your beautiful energy to our program, your wisdom, your stability, your humility, and your presence, and your invaluable guidance. We are so grateful for you for being part of this program, and I'm sure our viewers are going to love this. We have plenty more content like this, so please stay tuned for more. Thank you, Ivana.
Thank you so much for having me here today. It was really really interesting session and really deep and transformative for me as well. And I'm honored to be part of your program. And I wish great success to all the participants. I hope they overcome all the challenges and they find the strength, stability, and security. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.